Hello, Stephen here, and I'm joined today by Dr. Friedman. So welcome to the show.
Thanks.
And today we're talking about the solar eclipse that's coming up shortly on the 26th.
Right.
So first, the biggest concern for me, and I'm sure you've got other things you want to share as well, but is safety, making sure everyone is safe.
So everybody should be safe and make sure the people in your party on the cruise are educated about using the safety glasses that we'll show you in a minute. Also, if you're a photographer, you need to make sure that you don't point your camera at the sun unless you've brought along a solar filter.
Okay.
So one thing photographers can do, if you didn't bring a solar filter, is look around. There'll be people around you on the ship using cameras with solar filters, and you might want to ask them if you can borrow theirs and cover your lens during the photography of the eclipse.
Now, is that only for a big camera, or what about like a smartphone camera? Can it also damage something like that as well?
I wouldn't, for example, I wouldn't point your cell phone camera at the sun and then zoom in so that you're
using the apertures.
So that the aperture is illuminated. Just to be safe. So we don't want anybody's equipment to be injured, but of course we don't want your eyes to get injured either.
Yeah, you can replace the phone much easier than you can replace your eyes.
Right. So now there is a thing you can do that might be fun if you have a young person who's going to watch the eclipse, and that is to get a piece of cardboard, just like heavy paper, and punch a hole in it with a pin, and then you can turn your back to the eclipse and let the sun shine on that pinhole and let it shine onto a wall or the floor, and you'll be able to see the eclipse
like a little
very safely because you'll have your back to the sun. So you're essentially creating a pinhole camera.
That's very tricky. I've heard of that. I didn't realize it was that simple. I knew there was a trick with poking a hole in cardboard, but I thought it was more complicated than that.
Well, here's the challenge. Is to get the sun shining on the pinhole, but the projected light shining in a shadow. Because if you project that light onto a sunlit surface,
it won't show much.
You won't see anything.
Okay, so there is a trick.
You maneuver around on the ship and get in a spot where you can do that kind of experiment, and it's safe because you're not looking directly at the sun.
I would still maybe say, while you're trying to find the right shadows and things, have your glasses on.
Oh, yeah.
Should we demonstrate the glasses now?
We look very stylish.
Yeah, our stylish glasses here. And when you put them on, I literally can't see almost anything right now.
That's right.
But it's because when the sun is so bright, right? You'll be able to see it through.
Right. Now, because of our ship's trajectory through the sea, we will not see the maximum eclipse. The maximum eclipse for this particular event
it's a few hundred miles south.
Is south of us. We're not going to go down there. But had we gone down there, we would see the disk of the sun and the disk of the moon blocking out almost all the sun, but not completely, because the moon's a bit farther away in its orbit at this time of the month. So it doesn't completely fill the sun, and there will be a ring of light where the moon does not obscure the sun. It's called the Ring of Fire, but we would have to be hundreds of miles south of here to be on the trajectory to see that. But it's all eclipses are interesting on their own, and
I'm very excited actually. So let's see. Are there any other tips or tricks? We've got the pinhole, the shadow, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with the man-made. You said anything that has a small hole that's casting, right?
Right. So here's another thing you can try to do while the eclipse is starting. And by the way, the first contact between the moon and the sun will occur sort of like an hour before the maximum eclipse. Walk around and see if you can find a spot where there's an awning or some kind of shade where there's holes in the awnings where they have the ropes that hold it tight, and look for those spots. When the sun shines on that, you'll get the effect of the pinhole. So you can, and this is another thing you can do. Remember, the eclipse only lasts through roughly 3 minutes. So you should have a little bit of a plan of what you intend to do.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a lot of time. But where there's little holes, in awnings or you just have to be creative when you're walking around the ship and look for these. You will see the image of the sun and the moon, just as if you created that pinhole thing that we talked about. One thing we don't have on the ship, but you might see something like this, is if you're in a wooded area, like we had in North America 2 years ago. We had the big eclipse.
Yeah, I missed it because I was on the ship.
Standing under a tree is very interesting because you see multiple examples of the eclipse on the ground at your feet. Because every little gap where the sunlight goes through, that's sort of like a pinhole. So you see at your feet hundreds of pictures of the eclipses. Right. So cool. We don't have trees on board, but if you wander around during the eclipse, take a look down to see if you can't find one of these interesting spots where you see multiple examples of the eclipse.
Yeah, that's cool, because everyone's going to think to look up. That's good advice to look down, actually, and kind of look at the shadows.
So let me say one other thing about safety that just occurred to me, and that is, even if we happen to have overcast, you can't look directly at the eclipse safely. You know, even like sometimes you're at the beach and it's foggy and you can kind of look at the sun directly. Don't do that. Use your glasses.
Yeah,
and
we've got enough glasses for everyone on board.
Right, everybody
we'll
can
be
be safe.
distributing them, so yeah, no need to worry.
Other issue is take the glasses off when you're walking around because, as Stephen said, when you put these glasses on, you can't see anything except if you're looking at the sun.
Yeah, they're dark. They're very dark.
They're very dark.
I can only see the light bulbs.
So let me point out just a real oddity about eclipses, and that is the disk of the moon fits onto the disk of the sun almost exactly. This is a complete accident of nature. If the moon were a smaller object or was farther away in its orbit, we would see the moon cross the disk of the sun,
and then nothing, probably, right?
Right, but the sun would never be completely obscured. And if the moon were bigger or closer, we would have eclipses much more frequently. But our moon happens to fit almost exactly on the face of the sun.
That's
it's
very
a complete oddity and just an accident of nature. Let's see. Oh, yeah, interesting thing. When these eclipses occur, people sometimes say to me, well, it never got dark. And that's because your eyes adapt. As the moon crosses the sun, the amount of light that your eye is collecting goes down. And in a total eclipse, it gets dark, so dark you can see stars. But as this is happening, your eyes adapt to the dark. So you continue to have the sense that nothing has happened. But the example that I would give you is 2 years ago when we were in North America, we had the big, very popular eclipse. During the maximum eclipse, people near me where I saw it said, it's not getting dark. And I said, how come the street lights are on? So because your eyes adapt, you won't really see that it's... Now, your camera will.
It's slow enough, too, because it's
right.
a 3-minute process.
That's at maximum.
Yeah.
But it takes many minutes, or like I said, maybe an hour prior to the maximum eclipse. The moon is gradually crossing the sun. It's getting gradually darker and darker. And your eyes have plenty of time to adapt. So
it's like maybe being in a restaurant and it's like 10 p.m. and you're like, wait a second, when did they turn all the lights down? And it's been a slow dim the whole time.
Let's see. I'm going to scan through our notes real quick and make sure that we've covered everything. And I think
that may be the bullet points.
Have. This is an eclipse that will be seen all the way from essentially the place the cruise started, all the way to where it ends. The eclipse will cross India and go out into across India and out into the South Pacific, and then it'll be over. So it doesn't go all the way around the globe.
It's just kind of like
streak.
Like a line almost, yeah.
Right, and if you take a look on your cell phone, you can look it up and you can see the extent of the eclipse from the Middle East through India out into the ocean.
Very cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
all right. Well, we're excited, and of course, we will update you with more information as we have it, as far as timings and locations and things. It will be in the morning, but we'll update you as soon as we have official timings, most likely the evening before when we have the most accurate information possible. So,
okay, be safe, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for joining me, and see you.
We're looking good now.
Bye for now.